Oh, hey, didn't see that.
Hi, guys.
Whoa, this is kind of crazy. Who'd have
How did you
thought
get there?
that we'd be back with these people again?
Yeah.
Insert name here. How have you been?
Long time no see.
I know. Like,
Well, for you it was
no different.
the normal amount.
You look good. You look really good.
Yeah.
Like, things going well? I hope so. Hey, anyway, I am Eliz.
I'm Lilyemma.
Welcome back to Blonde Vibrations. Even though someone commented on TikTok earlier and told me basically I wasn't blonde, which this video would also suggest because my hair looks really dark right now.
But the crazy thing is that I feel like if you've watched the podcast for a while, you would have A, seen Eliz's roots grow, but also B, you would see the like complicated relationship that I feel like you have with your natural hair colour. And the other day we were in Urban Outfitters and Eliz went, oh, I love that girl's hair, like I wish my hair was like that. The girl's hair colour was identical to Eliz's natural hair colour.
But what you must know is my hair is not like fun quality. It was the
colour,
but it was the like radiance of it. It was the thickness. It was the almost like natural highlight to it. It wasn't just the colour. It was everything that the colour was surrounded by as well. It was really quite good. Not that you would ever see her now. No. I can't.
Just imagine Eliz with like this colour hair, bit thicker with layers.
Yeah, like double the amount of hair and a good swoosh to it that she must do every morning. She must do what? The swoosh of her hair, the fringe, the cat and bang. And Caitlin put my fringe in a roller as well at the weekend.
And also a Dyson Airwrap.
Oh, we used a free Airwrap in the store.
Store.
Since we last saw you, we feel like it's been a while because we went to Spain on holiday.
Yes.
We also went to Manchester to see Caitlin when we realised that we spent more days with her this month than we have not this month, uninterrupted.
Considering we no longer live in the same city.
We couldn't live further unless she lived in Newcastle, which is not that far. Yeah. I don't know. But yeah, so
that's what we've been up to. What you guys been up to?
Looking
Enjoying
good.
Summer.
Yeah. It actually has felt like summer until this moment. It's been raining today. So, what can you do? Yeah. But we're back with Champagne Whispers, episode 28 to be exact. Precise. Yeah, exact and precise. Feeling rusty?
A little bit.
Oh.
Yeah, a little bit. Like, I'm looking at my notes and I'm like, oh.
Have you got it in you? I'll let you guys know into a little secret now, as I don't have, like, imagery for you today. Like,
you have a metaphor?
I don't think I do, because I'm not quite sure how he can get alcohol-related things. Okay. Well, we'll work with that, won't we?
And it's not even really a pun. It's just a bit like...
Just a little bit of, like, sass factor to a sentence. Okay, well, anyway. Tonight, this weekend's situation...
What do you mean today, tonight, this weekend?
This week, I don't know. The situation is, I have a hard limit, no alcohol rule on dates. Is it hindering my dating experiences? Will I ever find someone?
I think British drinking culture is such a thing that we talk about so much, and that I feel like most, if not all, social events will have a drinking element to them.
Yeah.
And I think that's crazy, and we've spoken about it a lot, probably in the past year, about how crazy it is that like people will just drink, and they'll drink so much. Even like the other day I was speaking to someone at work and they were like, yeah, every time I go on a date I drink like 6 pints. And I'm like, oh,
6?
I'm like, oh my god, like even if it was a bad day, I'm drinking 6 pints. And I'm like, oh my god, like there is such a like, and this is no shade to that person, but there is such like an excessive drinking culture in England. It's crazy.
Yeah, I feel like if we had someone from another country here for like a different perspective, I wonder how different it would be, because like this kind of is like, if you really don't want to drink on a date, you really do have to consider it, because if it's not mentioned at all, more likely than not, you're just going to be taken to a pub.
Yeah.
Like, that's not only, like, binge drinking culture here, but dating culture is most of the time, like, that has become, like, the norm is the pub. And then if you see each other connecting, then at some point you'll, like, graduate onto doing something else, which needs to change, clearly.
I think drinking culture kind of makes people reliant on alcohol, not necessarily saying that, like, every single British person is an alcoholic, but I think in the sense of people feel like they can't do things, or particularly scary things or new things, you know, meeting new people, like big socializing events, without the influence of alcohol. And I think that's such a common thing. I'd love to hear like a stat of like how many people feel like they need alcohol to get through like a nerve-wracking social event. And I know it's something that we have done very heavily in the past, so it's like I couldn't possibly do that without alcohol.
Well, yeah, even like stripping it back to like going clubbing, so you don't have to drink to go clubbing, but a lot of the time people feel like, oh, I can't stand in a room full of people and dance if I hadn't had a few drinks. Dutch courage is a thing for a reason. Did that come from like Dutch people? If we had a Dutch person on here, would that be a lot more common?
I'm not sure.
But
I think, and I always feel like I say this a lot, like I speak to a lot of younger people who are still very much like undergrads at work, and I always say like I hate the idea that you need to drink to have a good time. Like, you know, people are always like, yeah, like you have to drink to go to a place like that, or you have to drink to go clubbing, or I have to have a drink before I go on a date. And I just think like that is horrible. I hate that idea, and I think it's rooted in like self-consciousness and insecurity. And I think if you're finding that you need to drink to get through a social event, then you need to like do some like soul searching a bit.
Yeah, I think if you're going on a date with someone and it's less so about, you know, connecting with the person, it's more so about, you know, how many pints can I neck back in the next 2 to 3 hours. With peace and love, that feels like it's a you problem. Like, that shouldn't be a situation where you have to be drinking. Like, it should, if you're with the right person, getting to know someone that you have a genuine attraction to and an interest by, you should be able to talk to them just the same with an orange juice as a pint, and it's easier said than done. There's also kind of the mindset of, if this individual's going on a date with a guy, say, and he's like, yeah, we're gonna go bottomless, this, that, whatever, we're gonna go get some pints at the pub, they also might really enjoy that. You know how there's what we were just saying is you feel like you have to, or like self-conscious, Dutch courage. If that is people's day-to-day, that is a hobby. It might not align with your hobbies, but they might just enjoy that. You know, a lot of people say like, I love watching the football at the weekend and having pints. Yeah, I could not, but I want to, and I have a good time with my friends. They're now extending that to the date situation.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a reason why, like, I don't want to, like, I think on the one hand, you don't need to drink on a date. I think like that's good because it shows that you're very self-assured. You don't feel like you need alcohol to have a bearable experience. But I don't want to get into this feeling of like sober equals good, drinking equals bad, because I think like there is a lot of people that feel like drinking on a first date is helpful in kind of getting through that awkward barrier, or, you know, they might feel nervous and that's just how they want to kind of get past it and feel a bit looser. I also think like bar drinks date is so convenient, and even if we weren't in such a drinking society, it always would be, because it's a short thing, because you can just go for a couple, so it's like 2 hours, and that's not a weird thing to then cut off if you're not feeling it. It's in the evening where like most people are free. Yeah, like it's a convenient date, and that's why people choose to do it. It's not necessarily wholeheartedly on a drinking basis.
There's also, we're going down the route of like, I don't know, I'm picturing you at this pub with a pint or a cider or something, but there's also the element of people like to go to cocktail bars because it's cute, it's fun, it's the music alongside it. Cocktails taste nice for a lot of people. It's this new cocktail place just opened and it's only like 10-minute walk away, like why don't we try that? It's more like the experience of it, and drinking happens to be there as opposed to we're going out for a few drinks. It's different, it's getting dressed up for it, it's things like that.
And I guess even if it's a pub date, you're not getting ready to go drinking, you're getting ready to meet someone and you're going to have a drink while you're there.
It's almost just like a stimulus to surround it by, because if you're going up to that person, they're like, oh, what are you getting? You know how a lot of people say like, well, you can tell a lot by person by like what drink they order. Unfortunately, there maybe could be the if you haven't said anything and you just order the orange juice, I don't think it's good, but the other person might be like, oh, I wonder why. Like,
yeah,
they could say it's boring. I don't feel like that's correct.
I don't think it's boring. I think it's a very immature thing to be like, not drinking is so boring. You know, like, even if you were like out with friends and you were like, I don't really feel like drinking much tonight, and they were like, why are you being boring? Like, it's not boring.
No, it just is your mood for the night. And I think in this case, and we'll get on to absolutely no alcohol hard limit, but there's also the point to make that yes, on one night you might be like, oh, I'm not drinking. There could be so many reasons for that, as simple as I've got to get up early tomorrow, or you know what, I drank 3 nights last week, I'm just laying low tonight. And then the week after, if you see them again, you might want a few drinks. Yeah, it's just personal preference. Like, it doesn't mean that you're boring. It could even be as simple as, you know what, you looked at the menu that night and the cherry bakewell mocktail sounded so much nicer than this list of like pale ales. So I wanted to go for that. But then the next week you go, they've got a Parma Violets flavoured cocktail and you're like, I actually really want to try that. That sounds really good. It's just preference to what you wanted at the time.
I also think it would be such an interesting experiment. Like, I like a cider, so I would order a cider, and I don't ever drink enough on dates that I feel like my like opinion is like
swayed,
hindered. Yeah, but I know a lot of people who would drink a lot on a first date, and I think it would be interesting as someone who would drink a lot to not drink and see how that changes your thing. Like, because everything's exciting if you drink. Like, I genuinely think, like, you could probably feel an attraction to anyone if you're drunk enough.
You can mask a lot by just drinking through something.
You also can't remember things quite the same. Like, that's not a profound thing to say. If you're drinking quite a lot, you're not remembering it as well.
It's clouding your, like,
clear brain.
Yeah,
and I think this is one of the reasons why, not necessarily on dates, but just in general life, we stopped drinking so much. We stopped drinking so much at festivals and at concerts and things like that, because it was like getting to the point where it was like we were drinking to get through things. We weren't drinking for the right reasons. And then also, like, you could, like, I don't know about you, but I've got a bad memory anyway. So it meant that things were just like a sieve. Like, I would go to these shows and I would basically have to, like, not like I was getting blackout drunk, but I've got a bad memory. You put a slight bit of fuzziness in it and you can't remember things.
It changes the experience of things as well. And this comes from people...
weird. It feels weird.
Yeah. This comes from people who, like, we're not, you know, teetotal individuals. If we want to go out and drink somewhere, we will. But we've come to a place where it's not necessary for a social situation to go well, that you have to drink. And I think that's why we can really see where this person's coming from, because... matter of fact is, it doesn't matter what it is. It could be alcohol or something else. You're allowed boundaries when it comes to a first date. And if that is one, that is okay. It doesn't matter what anyone out there is telling you. Because I said, in terms of boundaries, it's the same realm as saying, I don't want to go to a library on a first date, or I don't want to be taken to a football match, or... like, it's the same thing. That's just something on your list of requirements for a date. Yeah,
and I think sometimes I think we've said this before, I think it's so important to set these boundaries and to say these, like, slightly uncomfortable things on a first date, because you can see so quickly the kind of person they are. Like, I think it's so interesting to be like, actually, like, I don't drink on first dates, and just see what their reaction is, because it's like the average... nice person,
the average Joe,
would just be like, okay, fair enough, like, let's have a look at the mocktail menu. Whereas imagine if they were like, why
don't you just get a cider then?
Or like well, how are we supposed to get along then? Do you know what you mean? I think you can tell so much by having those, like, not necessarily having these big, like, political and, like, morality discussions, but rather, like, having the weird subtle things to see about their, like, personal preferences and how they approach situations.
I think you also, as an individual, kind of need to decide, like, how far do you fall on the scale of, if they drink but you don't, how do you feel about that?
Because this isn't addressing necessarily there could be a reason why you don't drink, like a mentality thing why you don't drink, like a health thing.
You might be teetotal for past experiences. It might be a religious thing, this, that, whatever. In yourself, no one can ever tell you that that's not okay. A bit more of a tricky situation will be is, do you want to be on a date with someone and there is no alcohol there? Or you're like, I'm fine, I don't really care if you drink, you can have a few, don't get drunk if I'm going to be sat here sober, but you know, like, you're allowed a few ciders, pints, you can have the whole cocktail menu if you want. Like, it's just me, I won't be having a single sip. That's probably going to be a lot easier of a situation. More likely than not, you can't stop someone else, you just need to decide how much.
Especially if it's early on, like, it's not really your place to be like, no, you can't get that.
Yeah, because you'll get down a route of, you know, would you say someone has to drink because you want to drink? Can you dictate what they're going to wear on the date, what you do? It's a bit more of a sticky one. You just have to decide how much it's going to bother you. You can say a lot less if it doesn't bother you that much.
Agreed.
But I think if you've come to a point where you're saying it's a hard limit, and it is for a very valid reason, more likely than not, but I can't have the other person drinking with me. If they go home and drink after all with their friends, but in this circle where I am, you will not drink. You're going to have to address it before you get on that date, I think.
Yeah, I think you need to have a prompt or something and be like, fun fact about me is that I don't subscribe to drinking culture or something like that, do you know? And I think in response to, would it limit your dating then? I think it would. I don't think we would be like bad people to sit here and be like, it's not going to limit your drinking. And I think, if anything, the fact that it does limit your drinking isn't a reflection on your preferences, but rather a reflection of like the norms of like 20-somethings, 30-somethings drinking so much and drinking in such social settings all the time. But I do think that because it's so integrated, it will limit things. But I don't think necessarily limit is a negative thing.
It's almost protecting your peace a little bit, because if you're allowing, say, 10 matches to come in and none of them know that, you know, you don't want to drink, and then you go out with a few of them, it's never going to work out. However, and it doesn't have to be even a full prompt. Obviously, I'm thinking of Hinge because it's the only one. The only real one. But you know, even in the like what I'm looking for, you know how you can put whatever you want. You can be like, I'm looking for, you know, a sober partner. Yeah, that's fine. You then might only get 2 or 3 matches, but you know, they're the ones that you can actually visualize a future with. Might not work out still, but they're at least a potential. The other people were never a potential in your eyes, so what can you do about it?
It's hard because we are of the opinion of, unless you're going to kind of have some sort of progress by meeting someone, like not necessarily like it's going to be a relationship, but you're going to learn something about yourself, or you're going to have just to have a nice time. I think so. That's why it's so easy for us to take the approach of saying, have it on your profile, and if this limits your matches, then like it's for the best, because we're very much like, you date to learn things and you date to progress as a person and to grow, whereas some people are still of the opinion of, I date just to date, and there's no big psychological thought, I just want to do it. In that case, I think limiting your options wouldn't take that stance. But I do think that, I just think, why would you set yourself up for like,
kind of is a failure for yourself, because you wouldn't end up happy in that situation. It's thinking like, would you rather a load of people liking you but it's never going to go anywhere, or less people liking you? And that could be your soulmate if that's what you're after. If you're after something more casual as well, then there's the people that you know you have the pool of. Your dating pool is right there, it's limited. And it is a real taboo as well. Some people may see it as a red flag. It's not, by the way, but you know, it's one of those things, and it might even be something that someone would like to hold off saying, to have those difficult conversations when they know you a bit more.
Because I think people didn't want to talk about it because it feels like holding a mirror up to them. Yeah. Like, I think if someone came up to, well, I mean, not us because we're very like secure in our drinking habits, but I think if someone came up to I mean, even us when we were drinking heavily and being like, I actually don't drink at concerts. Like, I actually don't think I need it to get through standing in the crowd. We'd be there like, okay, like...
What, so you're saying that we need it?
Yeah, like, we would be defensive of it. Oh, sorry, I just hit the mic. Like, we would then... And it's not saying you're a horrible person for getting defensive, because it's a natural response, but you'd get a bit offended, even if they said nothing about, I think it's bad that you need to drink to get through this situation. Just the person going, I don't need to drink because I'm having a nice time. You get so like, oh my God. Like,
you're acting like
doing
a
that,
miracle.
I have to think about my behaviour.
Yeah.
And I think that's why it is taboo. In the same way of like, the same way that morning people can sometimes make you feel like if you're not a morning person, someone's like, yeah, I woke up at 6:30 and I went for a run.
Like, okay,
and then I came home and I had my granola. Straight away you're like, okay,
yeah,
what are you trying to say? Do you know? And they've said nothing about people who get up at 9, but you're there thinking like, oh God.
Okay, well, maybe you finish work at 11 p.m, so of course you can't be in bed by 10 and things like that. And the same with deciding whether to put something like that on your apps. It's not entirely the same, and I know I've said this to death, but the whole vegan thing, haha, I am a vegan. If you didn't know at home,
vegan.
I am actually better than all of you. No, I wouldn't know whether to put that on there, and I have done at points. I've taken it off because it just goes in rounds, but I've said more recently that is so important to me, and it's in the like, how much do you care? Because I don't necessarily care if someone eats meat, but it's if you're doing it a lot around me, and it's a similar thing, isn't it?
Yeah, and you kind of would rather have that like, not necessarily difficult, but that potentially difficult conversation where it's, you say, oh, I'm vegan because I am against animal cruelty, and you've opened yourself up to have that difficult conversation where there is a chance of someone going, well, I think that's a load of rubbish.
Yeah, the amount of people that are like, but I like animals, you telling me I hate animals, I love my pet dog, and it's like, that's not, it was nothing to do with you, this is my personal preference, but if I have that on my app, then the chances of someone coming into my house and cooking a steak and being like, Friday night steak and chips night, it's not impossible, but you know, it's significantly lowered, and it's a similar thing to you.
Because you're having that conversation and it could backfire, but it would backfire at some point anyway, because if they're a big drinker and you're not a big drinker, then it's never going to work.
Yeah.
Which kind of like, I feel like puts us onto, I'm assuming your conclusion, but I'm assuming it's the same kind of thing.
Yeah.
That, yeah, it might limit your choices, but are they really choices if you're not aligned?
Moving forward, I feel like if, you know what, you've listened to all this and you're like, but I just can't put that on my apps right now. I need to do it in a lot more of a...
nuanced.
Yeah, it needs to be subtle. I think, yes, binge drinking in the UK is like, it's always going to be there. However, as a society, we are slightly moving more towards, and I think it might be a post-COVID thing, people less go out, just in general, clubbing. Can you try and steer dates onto other things? And we've been talking about this a lot recently for like other reasons, but can you do other things where drinking just isn't there?
Yeah, and it's not the conversation. You don't need to have the conversation, and you can kind of get to know the person a bit more before you have to have that difficult conversation, because you could be having this awkward, like, I don't drink on dates conversation with a guy who you never would have been compatible, and it's not the drinking thing, it's the fact that you have completely different lives and you never would have gotten along. I think you don't necessarily need to have the big conversation to decide that.
Yeah, because I mean, they might have even just taken you to the pub in the first instance, if that is their like default, and then you're sat there in the pub thinking, I don't know how I can bring this up then. Everyone around me is currently drinking, I can't also leave, this is weird. But you know, if you went to a gallery or you took them to a food place where it's non-alcohol, just so happens to be, you took them to a taco place, or you take them to B Bagel, alcohol won't really come up, but at some point you'd be like, I love dates like this, you know, I'm not a big drinker, if I'm being honest, it's a turn off for me. It doesn't necessarily, you know, they're not holding the beer thinking like, shall I just leave? You You know, they're
Yeah.
holding a bagel. That's, you know, you're distracting the person with a nice bagel. And they're thinking, oh, they don't really, but you know, I'm enjoying this cream cheese. And
Yeah.
we're having a really nice time. It's alcohol free. How much do I need alcohol the next time I see her?
Yeah.
Maybe I don't. Oh, hey, you know what? Maybe I shouldn't
Yeah.
drink anymore.
Yeah, and I think if you're a big drinker, you get this thing where, and I feel like it used to be in TV shows all the time, I think, where it was like you'd never, like, you could go on a date with someone for like 3-4 days and you've never seen them sober in the daytime.
Yeah.
What is that from?
I don't know about you, but I
But I'm feeling 22.
I saw it in Friends.
Maybe that's what I'm thinking
And it
of.
was like, his name was like Bobby or something, and they'd go through like all of these bottles, and it was with Monica.
Yeah.
Monica was like, I haven't ever seen you sober.
Yeah.
But that, I won't delve into it because he ended up being boring without it, so we don't want to, you know, do
but
that.
this is the thing, is that I think sometimes dating without alcohol could stop that happening. And I definitely think you kind of saying, oh well, just do different date ideas, I think that kind of shows like that it shouldn't hinder your dating experiences in the sense of you won't find things to do or you won't go on dates if
Yeah.
you're not going to the pub and having a pint. Like, it won't actually physically hinder other than when you're weeding people in and out.
Yeah, because you know what? If you take this person to a restaurant, we'll go back to the bagel place, and they express on that date, oh, but you know what? I wish I was at the pub right now. Then that's probably highlighting key things about the person that it's not for you to tell them is wrong. It's not for you to tell them it's a red flag and they have problems that they need to sort out.
Yeah.
But it's just highlighting to you that that's not the person for you.
Yeah.
And instead of having that come up in a pub in a drinking situation that's making you uncomfortable, the bagel takes a lot less time to get through. That's done
Yeah.
in 5-10 minutes. And if, you know, he's saying things like that in that amount of time, you probably don't want to be with them.
Yeah.
Whereas if someone's taking the time, going to the gallery with you, you're going around the V&A, or you're going to the Taylor Swift exhibition, you found out all these great things, it might not ever come up because that is the type of person for you, because you're going and seeing lovely things together.
Yeah.
And it might just water off a duck's back. Is that, yeah?
Yeah.
That is
It
the
just,
right
like,
phrase.
floats off.
Yeah, and my final point is you will find someone. It's just some people have more niche requirements for what they look for in a partner, and alcohol free is not a strange one.
No.
And it is probably going to get more and more common. Some people do want very strange things. Some people, I don't know.
Strange is subjective.
Yeah, so it's nothing to do with you. It's all on them and their perspective
Yeah.
of what's going on. It's just navigating this new normal for you. And you said it yourself, it's a hard limit, so
It's not flexible.
it's not up for negotiation. You shouldn't be thinking about how much is this going to affect things. You do it and deal with what happens after.
Yeah, and I think, as with Edva, like, when someone puts in a query like this, I feel like it's very much like in a moment of panic where it's like, oh my god, I don't drink, so I'm never going to find someone. And I think when you take a step back, you realise how many non-drinkers there are out there, and you'll find your fellow non-drinker and you'll live like happily and like sober forever.
Yeah, and like people are a lot more flexible these days as well. You know, if they're not a huge drinker, but they kind of just do it for the normal because they're going to these places. If you express it and they're like, oh, you know what, I'm not that big of a drinker anyway, I could just, you know, give it up. I only have I have one beer for the football every year or something.
Yeah.
You know what, I can do without it because you're the perfect person for
Yeah.
me. Yes, that might be more on the optimistic side, but it's not to say it can't happen.
No, absolutely. And if it's meant to be, then they're not going to be a polar opposite to you. I think opposites can attract, but not on things like habits, like drinking.
Core values of things.
Like, your soulmate is clearly never going to be someone who goes to mosh every weekend.
Oh, it's true.
It's true. Like,
It's true, but you can be sober and mosh, but
yeah,
not
drinking
very
in
well,
mosh
yeah.
is a nice, yeah.
that's a whole other kettle of fish, to be honest.
Yeah.
But I feel in my heart and it's not even like I'm just saying it to shut you up, I'm just saying it to make you feel
just
better.
to wrap up the episode so Becky can
Yeah.
go back to her holiday.
Quick time. Like, you'll find someone. No, she won't.
Yeah.
Like, I do believe you will, because it really isn't, like, if it's going to take us really reassuring you, like, it's not a strange thing.
No.
Mocktails and alcohol-free drinks are so nice.
Mocktails are so nice.
Milkshakes are so nice. Like, all of these things are so good that if this person isn't willing to give up just the fact that something has alcohol in, and they'll miss out on you as a person, all the other things you bring to the table, if they think that's a red flag, then they are the worst person in the world. And they shouldn't even be like, you shouldn't go near them with a barge pole, to be honest. What?
You've taken an extreme route.
But it is true.
It is true,
I
yeah.
believe those things, because
And it is, you don't want them, not they don't want you. Well, they might also not want you, but you don't want them. I think it's really important, especially when you date, to flip it from, it's so easy to be like, oh my god, they don't want me.
Yeah,
but it's like, you don't want them if they're drinking. Like, if they don't want you because you don't drink, you don't want them because they drink. It's a mutual thing.
Yeah, because if I was like, oh, this person's such a meat eater and he actually goes hunting every week, but I was like, oh, but I don't want to bring up the fact I'm vegan because, you know, he might think I'm weird. I don't want to be with that. They don't want to be with me, clearly, because, you know, we're going to have some real butted heads.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, you don't pass my test.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah, I think it's important to see your boundaries as you pushing people out, not people not being able to get in.
They don't get a chance. They will never. But someone will.
Not our teetotal baddie.
Nuh-uh. Nuh-uh. Not you. Because you are, and this isn't, again, putting down people that drink.
No.
But for you in your situation, you don't need that.
Yeah.
That's fine.
And that does kind of make you a stronger person than a lot of people who physically can't go on a date without alcohol. Like, objectively, that is really impressive.
Yeah, of course. And, like, neither which one is, you know, has the moral high ground. But you just don't exist in each other's dating life, and that's fine. It's parallel worlds, and you don't have to cross paths. So don't.
Yeah.
That will do it.
Yeah.
That'll do it. That was a good one.
Yeah.
Considering I haven't recorded properly in, like, weeks, it's a nice one to be back.
Yeah.
We'd like to know what you think. Are you a drinker, and have you tried to go on sober dates before? Because I even think that would be an interesting thing if this isn't your scenario, but you go on drinks and this has kind of made you think, like,
go on drinks.
Go on, you do that, yeah. You go on dates drinking a lot, but you're kind of like, do I need it? Like, have you or would you ever go on a sober date?
Yeah.
Because it would probably be a good thing for everyone to try and just see if you do rely on it or if you don't.
Yeah,
it's just
I'd like
interesting.
to, like, dispel the idea of, like, you need to drink to find out someone's real side. Like, how about we're all just transparent?
Yeah.
And we're just ourselves.
If they're hiding things that only come out when they drink, that's like, what are they, like, calculating in their sober brain to not say things? Because, yeah, I get that naturally... You
want to show your best side.
Yeah, naturally things will come out more when you drink. But, you know, if these red flags only come out when they're drinking, like, that's a... Let's bring them to the surface sooner so you can get rid of them sooner, please. Please, please, please. Please, please, please. If you've enjoyed this episode, share it. Follow us.
Share it to someone who you want to go on a sober date with.
Or just,
Send it to someone who you think, I don't know,
needs to go on a sober date. You can follow us on Instagram.
Yes.
It's at blonde_vibrations. If whatever platform you're on, if you want to subscribe to us, rate us 5 stars. And also go over to our website, which is killing it right now. It's on the screen. blondevibrations.co.uk. And what's our TikTok?
Blonde Vibrations.
Get over there.
It's just a fun time.
And we're active again.
Yes, we had some time off for holiday because we didn't want to start getting on the wrong For You pages because we were obviously abroad and it was going to start showing us to people in those countries, which is fine, but we didn't want to lose you guys over here.
Yeah.
So.
And although I am chronically online, like, it's still nice to have, even though, do you know what? You know, we averaged still a post a day on holiday, and that was accidental. Things just were cropping up.
That's so funny. I didn't know
Like,
that.
how random.
Yeah.
I was thinking for a while, like, you know what, it's probably
It
going
was
to be
just
10
like-
days of nothing. You're like, I'm just now, but no. We're still back, but
Yeah.
it's all good.
Yeah.
So we'll speak to you soon. Let us know what you think.
We'll see you in a couple of weeks for another episode. Yeah. Goodbye.
Bye.